In this video, we're going to answer all the questions that you have about the Eufy series of vacuums coming up. Getting a robot vacuum has been on our list of to-dos for quite some time now, but we never found ourselves actually really wanting to purchase one. And we think that's due to a couple different reasons. One, we weren't really sure how well these vacuum cleaners actually clean. And two, we've heard some comments from other people that have some of the more well-known brands about their cleaning behavior and patterns and how they're a little bit erratic, and you're never quite sure if they've gotten everything or not. So between both of those things, those were kind of the two biggest objections that we had before purchasing a robot vacuum. And just so happens we found this vacuum cleaner on Amazon. This is a brand that's not one of the name brands, although I think it's getting more popular now. This is the Eufy by Anker, and this is the G30 model. We actually found a really good deal on this, and based on the reviews that they had on Amazon, we decided to go ahead and give it a shot. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go through the process of what it takes to get one of these set up, and then we're going to answer a lot of the questions that we had that hopefully you have as well, as to whether or not this is actually worth purchasing or if we should actually go ahead and return it in the end. So stay tuned and we will get started with that. But before we do, if you're interested in purchasing one of these or seeing if the deal that we had is still available while you're watching this video, we'll leave a link in the description below where you can go and check that out. But otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into this review. Now we need to put the brushes on. Flip this upside down. And actually it looks like it just needs one brush. It looks like it can go on any direction, so we'll push this on here. It looks good. So it looks like they give you an extra brush, which is nice. We're supposed to put the dock in a place where it can get to, so it needs to be in a location where it has 3 feet of space on each side and then 6 feet in front. It also says it's ideal if you place this on a hard, level surface. So we don't have either of those things. We have a location that we're thinking about. It only has 4 feet on each side and in front, and also it's on carpet. So we'll see how good this performs. So now we plug this in. It's got the white light. And we will set this back here. First time the kids are going to see this, so they're going to flip out. We're going to put this over here. I think it's going to work.
Charging.
Talks to you.
Apparently. So now it's going to charge for a little bit until the play pause button turns bright blue, then it's ready to go. Alexa, ask RoboVac to clean.
RoboVac, starting cleaning session.
All right, so we're gonna go through and answer some of the questions that we had and that you probably do as well. First up is, how well does it clean? Well, it does a pretty good job of cleaning. It actually picks up a lot of the things that are on the floor. Some of the bigger items it might miss or it might go over, but the suction on it is actually pretty good. Now, the vacuum does have some additional settings where we can make the suction even stronger. There's even an option to let it kind of adapt and increase the suction value if it needs to. We don't have it set to that. We've got it on standard right now. But just on the standard setting, it does a really good job. How often do you have to empty the vacuum? Now for us, we do it every time it vacuums. We have 3 boys, so you never know how dirty the house is actually gonna get. So we wanna make sure the vacuum is emptied. We're not sure if it has any kind of an alert that tells you if it's really too full, but we don't wanna actually find out if it does either. So every time it vacuums, we can dump it out. It's never been a problem for it to be dumped after it's done cleaning a floor. We were kind of worried that it might get filled up before it's even completed, but that hasn't happened. Have we had any problems with the Eufy vacuum? Well, yes, we have. So we have some dining room chairs that are pretty low to the ground, at least the supports are low to the ground. And usually it's okay, but sometimes the Eufy likes to force itself underneath one of the chairs, and then we have to go and rescue it. Now, if it does get stuck, what happens is we'll get an alert on our phone. It says something to the effect of, Eufy stuck, please help it. And then you go and find it, and then you take it out from where it's stuck. Typically, if we get that notification, we know exactly where it is in the house, so it's only a problem in one spot. But just to be aware, it's low enough to where it can get under most things, but sometimes it's a little bit, the furniture might be a little bit too low, and it might have an occasional issue with that. Some of the higher end models, you can actually tell it to not go to a specific area, like a room, so that might be an option for you if you've got that situation. How loud is the vacuum? Well, actually, let's take a look at that. One of the things we're really surprised by with the Eufy is how quiet it is. So to show you how quiet the Eufy is while it's running, I'm going to show you this decibel meter. First, this will be the reading for our house with nothing, no sound whatsoever, so you can get a baseline. So you can see there it's about 38 decibels. As I talk, you can see how high it goes there. So it's around 38 decibels. Now I'm going to go ahead and start the Eufy. Obviously, the closer I get to the Eufy, the louder it's going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of stand here and get the reading to show you comparatively how loud it would be if you're just in your house or in the same room as the Eufy, to give you an accurate representation of the sound. So let me go ahead and start it with my phone here.
Start cleaning.
Pretty quiet. Now, as a comparison, we're going to show you how loud the Dyson V8 vacuum is that we have. This has two different settings. It has a normal setting and it has a max setting, which is even louder because it picks up more dirt and has more powerful suction. But I'm just going to leave it at the normal. And my wife is holding the decibel meter, so that way I can be about the same distance away as the Eufy was to show you how loud this is comparatively to the Eufy. Good. All right, you ready? Mm-hmm. How often do you have to replace the accessories? Well, actually, the Eufy app keeps track of that for you, so you can just check it to see what the life expectancy is of each of the different things, like the bristle brush or the air filter. And if you need to place an order, you can either do that through the app, or you can just go online, like to Amazon, and order some replacement accessories for when you need them. The life expectancy, I will say, is pretty long. The only thing that's the shortest in the app is the sensor for sensor cleaning, but that's really just wiping it down. It's not a replacement. So it keeps track of all the maintenance that you need to do for the unit. The one thing that it doesn't understand, or we check because it doesn't really know if it's an issue, is that some members of our household have really long hair, and the really long hair tends to get stuck in this brush that's mounted on the front that kind of helps get really close to walls and things like that. So we do double check that every once in a while, probably after it, when we're dumping the unit, or every couple times that we dump the unit, we'll check to make sure the brush isn't really gunked up. But other than that, it's not an issue. Can you tell it not to clean certain areas? With this specific model, no, you can't tell it not to clean certain areas. What you'd have to do is you'd have to put up some kind of a barricade or close the door or something like that. Some of the higher end models, you do have the ability to mark off a section and it won't go into those rooms. Are stairs an issue? So while stairs can never be cleaned by a robotic vacuum, stairs aren't a problem in terms of, like, if you have an open stairwell, or if you have doors to a stairway and like the kids leave the door open by mistake. The question is, will it fall down the stairs? Like, is that going to be a problem? But it actually has some sensors to detect if it's hanging over a ledge, and it'll stop itself and back itself off. So you don't have to worry if you have stairs. It's not going to tumble to the basement every time it tries to clean your house. Can you tell it to clean on a certain schedule, or is it manual only? The application, you can do both. You can tell it to clean manually, or you can actually set up a schedule. I think it's limited to 1 time per day, which is probably just fine. And you can tell it what days to clean and at what times as well. So the app is pretty flexible. Do you have to pick up anything off the floor, or will it vacuum over objects? And this is one of those things that, surprisingly, there's a lot of travel in the wheels. So it will go over things that are probably an inch and a half high. So you want to make sure things are picked up, if at all possible, if you don't want the vacuum to run over it. So I'm talking about like power cords for electronics, Legos. You probably don't want it to vacuum up Legos, which would be the issue with any vacuum, or just anything in general that might be on the floor, especially if you have kids. Give it a once over, make sure that there's nothing on the floor that it would actually go over and try to suck up into the unit. But it does a pretty good job of navigating over terrain, especially if you have areas where it's like hardwood and carpet mix. It handles that just fine. How long can it clean on a single charge? Now, in our case, our main floor is about 2,000 square feet, and the battery runs out at about 1,200 square feet. So what happens is, once it hits around that mark, it'll go back to its base, it'll charge itself, and once it's done charging, it'll go and pick up where it left off to clean the rest of the floor. It takes probably, I'd say, 2 or 3 hours for it to charge up enough for it to go ahead and complete the job. So while it can't do everything, it really depends on how big your house is, how big your floor is, whether or not it can do it all in one job. And if it can't, it's not really an issue because it'll take care of it itself. How long does it take to clean? It takes about 2.5 hours to do about 1,200 square feet. Now, we do have a lot of different obstacles, couches, furniture, sometimes children get in the way. And you've got, different, we've got hallways, we've got small rooms like, bathrooms and closets and all this stuff. So it's really going to depend on what the layout of your house is. But in our case, for about 1,200 square feet, it takes roughly about 2.5 hours. Does it have a problem cleaning hardwood floors as well as carpet? No, it actually transitions really easily between hardwood floors and carpeting. In our case, we have a mixture of both, even in the same room. So all it does is it just adjusts to the flooring no matter what it is. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you have rugs that have tassels, that might be a little bit of an issue because the tassels could get sucked up in a vacuum. But really, just think of it as a normal vacuum. You just don't have to use it. So whatever you would do to prep when you're normally vacuuming, you need to probably do that for this vacuum as well. How close does it get to walls and cabinets and things? It actually does a pretty good job of getting close to cabinets and walls. It's got a brush on the front that will kind of swoop dirt away from the edges of the room and into the path to where it can be sucked up. But it doesn't do a fantastic job of that. Sometimes it misses certain things. So that's something that probably could be improved. And I don't know if different models of Eufys maybe have longer bristles or anything like that. But it doesn't always get everything in the corners. Sometimes we might sweep, like in the kitchen, some of the stuff that would get underneath the cabinets under the toe kick to the center of the floor so that way you can pick it up, but you don't necessarily have to do that. So those were our big questions before you purchase the vacuum. You might have others, and if you do, be sure to leave us a comment below and we'll be sure to answer that as soon as we can. So all in all, we feel the Eufy is a really great addition to our smart home lineup. It helps us keep the house clean. We don't have to be involved with it really. It does motivate the kids to help pick stuff up off the floor, so that's really nice. And one of the big benefits of it that we really didn't think about when we got it was that it can actually clean under furniture. Like we can clean underneath our couches, we can clean underneath, it'll actually fit underneath our dressers. So being able to actually vacuum in those locations where we usually just skip it is pretty nice. We run it probably maybe once or twice a week just to kind of do an in-between clean. And because of that, I'd say that you'll probably want to do normal, regular vacuuming with it, like on the weekends or however you do it, whatever your frequency is. It might be able to replace normal vacuuming with a regular vacuum cleaner if you have it run daily or every other day. But for us, it kind of helps us fill the need of kind of doing that in-between clean. So that's why we only have it run about once or twice a week. But all in all, if we had the decision whether or not we would purchase this again, we definitely would. It really does a great job. And the only thing I'd say is we might want to look at a different model because they do have some higher end units. Now that we know this does such a good job, we'd be interested in maybe spending a little bit more money to get a model that performs even better. So for example, I know they've got a unit that has a battery that runs a lot longer, and they've also got another unit that can actually mop the floor as well. So I might be a little bit skeptical of that one. We might have to try that out here too. If you'd like us to review that vacuum cleaner, leave us a comment, and we might do that depending on if we get some comments around that. But otherwise, yeah, it's really great. So if you're interested in checking this out, we're going to have a link in the description below where you can do that, or you can check out all the different models that Anker offers. The other thing I want to mention real quick is that we're probably going to do a follow-up review video on this here in 6 months to a year, just to kind of tell you how it's held up over time. But otherwise, while you're waiting for that, be sure to check out all the other videos we have on Top Homeowner, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't done that already, because the goal of our channel here is to help you become the best homeowner that you can be. Thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.